Hello, today we want to talk some more about artificial intelligence and its potential impact on your lives and on businesses. And one of the things that we're trying to do by introducing artificial intelligence in the course is to have somewhat of a live laboratory where we can see a new technology that's emerging onto the scene and will make its inroad into business organizations and how they use their resources to compete. It'll also make inroads on actually creating new organizations. We've talked about that creative destruction, and also on changing business processes within existing organizations. So both of these types of changes that this technology will introduce are being speculated about right now, and our hype cycle that we discussed before will help us with a lens to look at where things might be. So let's start out by maybe offering some basic definitions. Now, a lot of people define artificial intelligence by the fact that, well, it has to exactly duplicate the capability of a human for it to be artificially intelligent. But maybe not so fast. Maybe there are systems that don't necessarily think exactly like humans, which we call strong AI, but we just have some systems that can work without figuring out or copying how our human brain works. Now let me give you an example of that. I mean, if I told you that there was an elephant in the room next door, your ability to say, well, that's not very reasonable is an amazing cognitive ability. You use all your assumptions and think about what facts might come into play. But all of a sudden, if you heard an elephant trumpeting, you might step back, and your ability to reason and revise your estimate, think of new assumptions, things will pop into your mind like, was that a tape recording? Is there a real elephant? Is the circus in town? All these things our brain can bring up and bring to bear. Well, the question is, do computers need to think the exact same way we do, or have that same capability to reason the way we do, to still exhibit intelligence? So some people call that weak AI, the fact that we just want to get something to work that supports us. And maybe it's such that using human reasoning as a model, but not necessarily the end goal is our desire. So there's lots of different camps about where the definition of artificial intelligence sets in each one of these, but most likely now it's getting things to work and making things happen that's motivating a lot of the changes going on out there. So if we think in terms of Gartner's hype cycle that we've discussed before, artificial intelligence probably is just beginning to creep up that left-hand side. Now you remember that this curve talks about how things get very visible, and we get all excited about a new technology, and then we go into what's called the trough of disillusionment for a while. And then we see how that technology gets deployed and used in organizations. That's called the slope of enlightenment. And then the plateau of productivity gives us a way of saying, oh, here's where artificial intelligence has made its real impact. So right now we're looking at something just starting to creep up on the left-hand side of this hype cycle. And you notice I put something else there too, something called smart dust. And this is actually a form of artificial intelligence, and thinking that small particles equipped with some type of basic thinking or reasoning capability all combined together when pushed into the atmosphere may be able to lurk there and gather information for us. So that one's a little lower on the scale, but general AI is on the way up. Now, machine learning, or techniques that accomplish machine learning, are really high in the hype cycle right now. That means that if you Google machine learning, you're probably going to see a lot of different entries, and you can find examples where companies are beginning to deploy it or are claiming that they're getting great advantage out of it. There's a couple of other areas I highlighted here: cognitive computing and cognitive expert advisors, where artificial intelligence are beginning to play. But you see, with all of this, we're still in the beginning stages of that hype cycle, with maybe the cognitive computing and cognitive expert advisors beginning to move down a little on the scale to that trough of disillusionment. So where are people thinking that artificial intelligence is going to have impact? You know, one of the studies I found that I think was really informative was done by the Boston Consulting Group, and they interviewed 3,000 business executives across the world. And 84% of those respondents said that AI will enable them to obtain or sustain competitive advantage. Now, you know, one of the major purposes of this course is to examine technology, information technologies, and their potential impact to be used by companies to create sustainable competitive advantage. So that's pretty strong evidence that a lot of smart people running current organizations think that AI is on the way. And in your lifetimes, this will be the one to watch for where you go get jobs, where you might want to invest in stocks, and all these other facets of how things will change. Now, 83% believe that AI is a strategic priority for business today, and 75% that say AI is going to allow them to start new types of business ventures and maybe shift a little bit off course from their current business strategy and current business model to try out some new ideas. So the biggest effect on offerings, so these are things like what will be provided to consumers, came out of that survey and that work. And most startling to me was this in technology, media, and telecommunications. Today, the effect on those offerings is about 20%, but it's estimated that in 5 years, AI will have an astounding 70% impact on that particular industry category and how we interact with that industry category. Now, you know that media has gone under major changes with the introduction of Netflix and different competitors in the streaming media space. So a next step of this, and of course introducing 5G wireless, that people will be able to connect better mobilely and handle larger file sizes at faster speed. That will definitely have an impact, but also they're thinking that AI will too. Well, you can see in this particular study, there's different influences in the consumer industry, financial services, professional services, and healthcare. Now, the consumer industry would be more industries related to lots of touch points with the customers. Financial service, of course, is your stock brokerages, your banks, companies like that. Professional services may be healthcare, education, and actually not healthcare, but education and other types of services that you get maybe to take care of your house and fix different things that are going wrong. Car services, those types of things. And then, of course, finally, healthcare. Those are some of the biggest jumps in the professional services and in healthcare and financial services. So we'll be really watching for AI to have an impact on the offerings in that industry. But you remember that we also talked about the impact of technology on how production processes can change. Actually, how do companies go about making what they make or delivering the service that they deliver even better and faster, and now smarter through artificial intelligence. So this is a similar set of statistics on the potential increases. I think you can only imagine how you might be interacting with a call center, and now that all of a sudden is a robot and you don't know it, or how a surgery might be performed by an augmented AI system versus just by a human. So many changes on the way and how the processes might be changing in industry.